right, so now for the third part of our transform. We have location, rotation already. Let's talk about scale. Scale defines the size of an object. When you're scaling things, you can scale them independently based on the axes or uniformly where they all change the same. For us to really understand scale though, we have to talk a little bit about 3D models. 3D models, they're made up of points in digital space. Each movement of that object in a game requires calculating each point's location and color and how light changes and whatnot. And on our grid for this Murloc fish dude, we have this grid pattern. In between each of these lines, so where the different lines intersect, there's a point called a vertex. You can see it here. We have a cube, and this is open in a program called Blender. We have a cube, and on each of these corners is a vertex. You can see it where it's unwrapped here. These vertices are connected to each other in order to fold up to make that overall cube. You see these vertices has their own location in space. When you scale an object, you change the distance between these vertices. Each vertex on a 3D model has its own position. So when you scale, you actually are pushing your vertices further apart or bringing them closer together if you're making it smaller. So here we have this top node here that's at 222, this bottom one that is 202. When you scale and stretch it, all right, so I doubled it in the Y, or in this case, in the up and down. Don't worry about the order of the numbers. It's different in this program. But when I stretch it out, the distance in that axis is stretched out. When you're scaling and you have a texture on an object, so when you have something that is on top of, you have a picture that you basically put on top of an object to give it a look. Let's say we have a face, right? That is 3D rendered. We put a texture on top of it of Arnold Schwarzenegger's face. If you change the scaling, and if you don't do it uniformly, you just stretch it out and it will just look weird. So it's important that you pay attention to how you're scaling and make sure it works right, especially when you're working with textures. So if you scale along X, Y, and Z uniformly, then it's not big of an issue as long as your texture is high resolution enough, but we'll talk about that later. All right, so back in our engine, I'm going to select all of these cones that I made earlier. Select the top one, hold on Shift and click the bottom one. Take these and shift them all over. And I'll take this sphere that I made earlier just to have like a grounding point, and I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Let's learn a little bit more about scaling. I'm going to go to my content drawer, find contents, props, and then I'm going to go ahead and drag in chair. Now, by default, this chair has a scale of 1, 1, 1. If I decrease that to say 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, it is now smaller. We're set that back to 1, 1, 1. And I'm going to actually just drag in another chair. Easier if we have these to compare against. I'm going to align these chairs to be at the same X of, let's say, just 0. And now I have 2 chairs. I'm going to Control C, Control V to make a third chair. Now for this first chair, I'm going to change the scaling on it. I'm switching my scale tool, press R or hit that button right there. And I'm going to just make it taller. A lot taller. You can see how it just kind of looks really weird. Right? The proportions aren't the same. For this second chair here, I'm going to source it along the X. And again, the proportions aren't the same, so it just looks really weird. And for this one, I will stretch along the Y. Now it's wide and top other things. That doesn't look great. So I'm going to go ahead and undo all that. I'm going to just press Control Z and undo those. Instead, I want you to take this first cube and uniformly change the scale to make it twice as big. So I'm gonna actually move this over a bit so I can have the space for it. It's gonna make this first one bigger. You can do this by dragging, find the little box in the middle there between the different directions and just drag this, make it bigger. Or in the transform component on the right, you can see this little lock. Hover over this, it says when locked, scales uniformly based on the current X, Y, Z scale values, so the object maintains its shape in each direction one scale. If I click that on and it's locked now, I can set the scale of this to 2 and out on X, and now Y and Z also changed. I'm gonna take this middle one and I'm gonna leave that alone. Take the one on the right though, and I'm gonna change the scale of this one to be 0.25. There we go. And now I have 3 chairs of different sizes. Now, scaling is not one of the tools you'll be using all that often. You will use it, just maybe not as much as the other ones. You'll be using the translate tool for movement and location all the time. Rotation, you'll be using that all the time as well. Scale is less important. Generally speaking, if you have to scale something, you're better off putting it into the game engine, or rather into a 3D modeling software, and change the scale there. It'll behave a little bit better if we do it that way. All right, now that we have our objects scaled and we've learned more about placement of objects, rotating objects, and scaling objects, I want you to take a screenshot of your scene where I can see all the different parts that you put together in there. So as long as I can see all, objects where you've scaled, rotated, and placed, right? So get the angle right so you can see as much as you possibly can. Right, so I can see all the different parts of the cone here. Now you might have to select some of your objects to move them over, which is fine. Select the top one, hold down shift, and select the bottom one, and then you can move them all together. Whatever it takes to get it so you can see all of the different objects that you created. Then go ahead and take a screenshot of this. All right, that's gonna be it for this video. Next, we'll be setting up our scene or our project that we'll be actually working on to make our first little game.